Okay, that's as good as I'm going to get it, I think. So, hello and welcome to HughesRound. I'm Hughes, this is The Round, and today is the 5th of August 2021, and we've already got a lot of people here, which is great, although my Restream chat isn't updating, so I'm just going to go off what I can see on YouTube. I've got Pineapple Boy saying there, konnichiwa. Was the Ethernet cable long enough? Yes, it was, 10 meters, and it worked a treat, I think. Well, it's plugged in now. Just did a speed test, and although I can download on this internet at 80 megabits per second, which is pretty good, the upload is 7 megabits per second. And obviously that's not guaranteed because uploads aren't. So, yes, I am hoping that the technology is going to be better on Ginger Island. Won't it be ironic if it is? Greetings all, comes from Stanley Beckett. We've got Asperger's Europe saying hello. We've got Graham Hanna saying afternoon. Scott can't believe it that I'm late. That happens every day. You know, I don't never start any of these shows like actually on time. It's always a little bit later than it's supposed to be. But, you should be used to that by now. And also, I mean, it's just case of getting all the tech together, isn't it? I usually have a stack of books next to me, and today I've only got my Canada book because I'm doing a Hughes of the World on Canada later today at 8 o'clock UK time. Ford Oak says, greetings, Earthlings. We've got Scott saying, good evening from Wuhan, China. Wow, hello, Scott, from Wuhan, in Wuhan. We've got Daily Blase, good afternoon. I hope everyone's well. Yeah, not everyone. Some people have got COVID. But yeah, some people are all right. I'm all right. Chief Warlock Engineer reporting in. That's good. Graham's still on Bloomberg. Baboom the net today. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm doing the best I can, given the situation. But yeah, I'm broadcasting from my parents' kitchen at the moment. Just tried to feed my dad lunch, which didn't go down too well. So I had to abandon that. I will go back to that after the show. A little project there for me. Marius says, afternoon all, and so does Tim Ballum. Bearberg says, good morning. Lee Corn says, good afternoon. Patrick McCarthy says, hi, and Joe Hay says, hi there. So, we have succeeded in a small way of getting our rights back as we slowly crawl our way on our hands and knees back to the EU. Today it was announced that British musicians who wish to play in the EU will be given a 3-month visa-free period to tour around Europe. Not all the countries of Europe. I think it's about 20 countries in Europe that you can do. There's a few that I think Greece and Spain haven't signed up to it yet, but they probably will. And this is great because not only will it allow musicians from Britain to play in Europe and also be reciprocated so that European musicians can play here. Also, it is a step on the way back to the EU because the argument goes like this. How come you've made a special exemption for the musicians, eh? What about the travelling salespeople? What about the people who need to go to conferences? What about the people who need to present travel shows around Europe? What about the people? And they'll have to bring in more exemptions and more exemptions and more exemptions. In the same way that we'll eventually get back to the single market and the customs union because there'll be so many exemptions, it would be daft for us not to rejoin and just say, well, yeah, we'll be part of that then. And then once we are part of the customs union and the single market again, what do? Well, we turn around and we say, well, what's the point of being a member of the single market and the customs union and being a rule taker and not a rule maker? Maybe, just maybe, we should rejoin the European Union. But that's a long way off now. Canada is that south of Detroit. Yes, all the south of Detroit. Hi from Brussels, says Tiger Pie. We've got Tim Ballum saying, still better quality than GBBs. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's turned out all right. I'm hoping my lights are going to last. The light that's lighting the backing curtain, or the sheet I've got behind me, it ran out of batteries yesterday during the show, so I'm hoping it fares a little bit better today. Asperger's Europe says, apologies, I typed that to you before you started speaking, covered exactly my point. Oh, hello. Sorry, Asperger's, I'm just having a look up. It says, it has been made easier for musicians to tour in 19 of the 27 EU member states, but the slight easing of mobility is of little use as carnets still have to be obtained to transport equipment. Yeah, there's still a long way to go on it, but as a first step on our road back to the EU, it's welcome. Is it reciprocal? Yes, as far as I'm aware, musicians from those countries will be allowed to play in the UK for 3 months without having to get a work visa. But there is still some problems with carnets, which are the documents you need to transport equipment from over state lines, over the lines of international, into the EU, actually. Forget about, because it's all in Schengen, isn't it? The sound engineers, roadies, and lighting techs aren't included. I read that they were. I read that they included. I'll have to have a look because it was on the Guardian, and the Guardian, are not always 100% accurate. Bit unfair to say that it's completely inaccurate, but let me try and find. I couldn't really find much about it on the BBC website actually today when I was looking. Maybe I just missed it. I would think this would be bigger news. It's all about the bloody Olympics. No offense to the Olympics. I mean, it's a magnificent thing to have, But I can't find it. If someone has a link, put it into the chat. Oh no, you can't. You can't put links in the chat. I can, but I don't think you can. Sorry about that. They always forget about the infantry. Well, look, I wanted to mention that about what's happening with musicians. But really what I want to talk about today is Afghanistan. Because it's carnage. I mean, it's serious carnage going on in Afghanistan already. The US troops haven't even finished pulling out yet, officially. I think it's the end of the month. And yet the Taliban are on the ascendancy, and they look like they're going to take back over the country. And so you look at this 20-year-old conflict and think, what the hell was that about? Like, why? What were we doing there? We went in to get rid of the Taliban, and we got rid of the Taliban, and then we left, and the Taliban took back over. And I'm strenuously, what I can't believe is that they haven't got anything to replace what they had. They're just literally pulling out. Why aren't they keeping the equivalent of the K4 peacekeeping troops, the NATO peacekeeping troops? Why aren't they being positioned in Afghanistan to keep the peace? Or the United Nations troops put in to... And by the way, when I say NATO and United Nations troops, I don't think they're actually paid by the United Nations. I think these are national armies that second people to the UN or to NATO. I might be wrong on that, but I don't think the United Nations has a standing army in that respect. But it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. The lives that have been lost in Afghanistan for nothing. And it's reprehensible as far as I'm concerned. Chubai says it's only because the elite realised that orchestral musicians often came from the EU and suspect it won't help bands. Afghanistan will be completely under the Taliban control by the end of the year, I guess. Yeah, I think that Pineapple Boy. Go back to what I said yesterday about this. I was like, why didn't they just say we're pulling out and then not actually pull out? And when the Taliban start blowing stuff up, you jump out and go, surprise! Kill them all. That's what I'd do. If I was an army person, which I'm not. I'm not an army person. L33, they do not want it to be big news. If it is, they will have to deal with the why them or not us lot. Yeah, well, I'm part of that. I want them to get. I want musicians to have visa-free travel, visa-free work around the EU. That's great, but then that gives credence to the argument. Like, what about us? What about the rest of us? They wanted to keep an eye on Iran, for when the Pylon-Iran war was going to kick off. Yeah, it never did it, in the end? Hi, Graham. Yeah, freedom. I want to break free. Yeah, freedom, visa freedom. People talk about freedom. And that knobhead, the Scottish fella, on GB News the other day saying that his grandfather died in the war or something, some nonsense like this. So he had a right to infect people with a deadly disease. He's completely off his tits. I mean, the guy's an idiot, whatever. But at the same time, like, you're looking at these people going, you don't know what freedom means. You have no idea what freedom means. Who's more free? Somebody who chooses to not wear a mask in B&Q, or somebody, because they seem to be on the side of a virus in a war between the virus and humanity, Side with the virus, why not? Who's more free? So is it that person thinking, I've gone to the I went to the B&Q without a mask on, no one could stop me? Or is it the person who married the person they wanted to from another country without having to ask permission, moved to that other country, got a job without having to get a visa, bought a house without having to jump through lots of regulatory hoops, got a bank account without having to jump through lots of regulatory hoops? Because we're part of the EU. Who's freer in that respect? I mean, this is pathetic. The freedom not to wear a mask, that is sad. That is a sad twat's idea of freedom. Do you know what freedom is? Freedom's being able to go and visit every country in the world, which I presume we can still do, but it's not as easy as it used to be because we decided to, piss off every country in the world in alphabetical order. That was freedom, and we're giving it up. The freedom to go and live and work, buy a house, start a business, retire, fall in love in 27 other countries without having to ask permission of someone you don't know. Some foreign official who gets to say, ja or niet. Roger, come back to Spain, mate. I'm considerably poorer and less free than I was in 2010. Yep. Same here. I think everybody is, Roger. That is the way of Brexit. That is the way that this government has been running this country. And don't forget, it's not just Brexit. It's their response to COVID and something that people seem to forget, austerity. They pushed austerity on this country for 10 years, which is the shittest way to deal with an economic problem like the credit crunch. Oh, and have you heard what Rishi Sunak's getting set up now? Well, what happened at the credit crunch? As far as I understand it, and look, I'm not an economist, I'm not a city banker. I'm not necessarily the best person to explain this, okay? I watched The Big Short. But from what I understand, what I can glean is that the banks were putting poor investments, bad investments, like investments in housing where it didn't look like people were going to be able to repay the mortgage. So it was like a mortgage that was in serious risk of default. And they sandwiched it in between two like better investments that were short, AAA investments. And they sold the whole thing as a AAA investment, even though it had this dog turd in the middle of it. And they made a shitload of money out of it. And unfortunately, it's not good economics because it meant that people were being pushed into getting mortgages that they couldn't afford. They were given a cut rate for the first 6 months, the first year. And as soon as the proper rate kicked in, they couldn't afford it. So you had hundreds of thousands of people defaulting on their mortgages, which then led the banks down the path where the Lehman Brothers went tits up and lots of other banks needed bailing out, including Northern Rock in the UK and also the Bank of Scotland, I think. I always get mixed up between the Royal Bank of Scotland and the Bank of Scotland. They're two separate banks, just like Dundee and Dundee United are two separate football teams. They don't like making it easy, do they? But yeah, Rishi Sunak. Well, so after the credit crunch, no one went to jail, really, maybe in Iceland, but no one in this country went to jail for it. Lots of companies went bankrupt. Lots of people lost their jobs. The economy took this huge knock. Not as big a knock as COVID, but it took a big knock. And one of the things that did come from it is they said, listen, this idea of sandwiching a piece of shit between two good investments and fobbing it off as a AAA investment when it wasn't because they had this piece of shit in the middle of it, we're going to make that illegal. We're going to make that against the rules. You're not going to be allowed to do that anymore. Rishi Sunak wants to bring it back. Rishi Sunak, man with 11 houses, multi-millionaire, wants to bring it back. The very mechanism that caused the fucking credit crunch. I mean, what goes through these people's heads? Oh, I know what goes through these people's heads is money. Money. Grubby little money. These are grubby little conservatives grasping onto every little penny that they can grab hold of. They're horrible, horrible people with the morals of a sewer rat. And you can give a sewer rat, a little bit of credit. I mean, it's a hard life being a sewer rat. Okay, you just got to eat what's in front of you. But for God's sake, these are well-educated, supposedly well-adjusted adults. I don't think they're either, to be honest with you. Umka, €5 super chat. Interesting, but maybe Brexiteers don't understand that sovereignty is not equal to freedom. North Korea is fully sovereign. Yeah, Umka, that's a great point. Thank you for the €5 super chat. I really, really appreciate it. I'm looking at my finances at the moment because obviously we're going to Ginger Island next month, and God, if Ginger Island doesn't work, I am in some serious shit. So we've got to make it work through sheer bloody willpower. But any money you want to throw into the pot before then, I will be really gratefully appreciated. Austerity is all the Tories know when it comes to the economy. Problem is, it never works. No, it's a nonsense. It's an absolute nonsense. Well, how do you get economies to work? You need people to buy stuff. Making people poor doesn't improve your economy. If making people poor improved your economy, fuck me, Burkina Faso would be an economic powerhouse. But it's not, because poor people don't buy anything. And every time you buy something, the banks, PayPal, the suppliers, the truck drivers, the manufacturers, the shop, the rental people, the cleaners of the shop, whatever, they all get a cut of that money. That money is used by you to buy your thing, and then that money that goes into buying that thing pays for a lot of stuff, funds a lot of stuff. If you aren't buying anything, if you go an entire year without buying shit, you are not helping the economy at all. In fact, if you save your money by stuffing it in a mattress or in a bank account, you're not really helping the economy at all. You need to be spending it to help the economy. So what they should have done instead of austerity is stimulus packages. Not for fucking British Airways and BAE Systems and Virgin Trains or whatever. No, for people. Stop investing in these big companies. They can sink or swim on their own back, I reckon. Because, look, we can either live in a capitalist society or not. If we live in a capitalist society, stop giving these tax breaks to oil giants, and allowing companies like Starbucks to pay fuck all in tax, allowing companies like Facebook and Google and Amazon to pay fuck all in tax, and the people who own these companies to pay fuck all in tax as well. It's wrong. It's just wrong on every level. What you want is everyone to have a bit of money, and then they spend that money, and that grows your economy. What else you want is migrants coming in, because, as I've explained many, many times before, and I'm sure you're getting sick of this by now, you don't have to pay for their education. It's the best argument that you can have with a Tory to say, why don't you like people coming from other countries? If you're not a massive racist, explain the economics behind you not liking people coming from other countries, because we have an increasingly geriatrification. We have a geriatrification of the nation process going on, in which the country is getting older. The average age is getting older and older. We have more and more older people who are living longer, and as a result, we're having to work harder to pay to keep these people alive, which, I don't have a problem with keeping them alive. Very, very clear about that. I'm not a conservative. I'm not like, oh, well, they're over the age of 80. I mean, they knew what they were getting into when they got that old. I say, let them crash. I think people would think maybe a bit differently if it was their dad or their granddad or their grandmother or their mother. But I don't think Tories care that much. I think they're quite happy to see the older generation die in their family because, A, they don't know love, and B, they'll probably inherit shitloads of money. So Tories are like, yay, dead old people, more money for me. A bit of a shame. Tim Ballum says, nothing but photons and radio waves. It's a vacuum inside their heads. Indeed. I don't know if they've got much photons in there, because I don't think it'd be too light, would it? It'd be just a big black hole. Marius says, those were packaged as ABS, asset-backed securities, and sold onto financial markets by banks. When people defaulted on paying the mortgages, all of the thing failed and led to the financial crisis. Yeah, Marius puts it better than me. I think Marius understands it a bit better than I do, but from what I understand, it's like you get some King's Mill, you put some shit in the middle, and you give it to someone. You say, look, it's a lovely sandwich, and because they can only see the outside, they don't realize that the inside is actually full of shit. Oh, someone's calling me. That's inconvenience. I don't know what's happening here. My phone is buzzing, but it's not telling me who is buzzing me. If you're trying to get me on, I'm just gonna have to stop for a second. Sorry, in case this is important. It's gone. It's stopped buzzing now. If that was someone trying to get me on stereo, please don't get me on stereo at the moment. I'm not set up to take calls. But if it was someone else, please call back. If it was urgent. Okay, where was I? Duke vengeance. Give money to the rich. They squirrel it away in offshore tax havens. Give it to the poor and they will spend it revitalizing local economies. Yeah, Duke, brilliant. You've put it better than me again. You guys are better than me at doing this. I think you should do it more in future. UBI says Pineapple Boy. Yeah, UBI would be the ultimate way of stimulating an economy, to give people money, because then they'll spend it. They'll have to. Invest in Wetherspoon's pubs. Keep the Brexiteers drunk and happy. Brits drank their brains off. Yeah. And destroy their livers in the process. Umka says, how are the supermarket shelves doing? We got more grass-fed beef from Ireland in my supermarket in Bonn. And it's even cheaper than French beef, which is also very good. I don't know. I've not actually been to the supermarket by us because I was in Scotland last week. And the week before I was in Scotland as well. So I haven't actually done the supermarket shop for at least 2.5 weeks. So I'll let you know. I'm back in Durham on Monday, so I'll let you know what it's like in my local supermarket. I'm sure there's empty shelves. I'll take a photo of it and post it online. Hancock had a plan for the problem of people getting older. Something about care homes and ring fences. Yeah, some bullshit, yeah. Any advice for a breakup, mate? My head is gone. I'm really sorry to hear that, Jay. All I can say is one day, I don't know when, it might be in a few weeks, it might be in a few months, it might take a couple of years, but you will wake up and you'll just go, oh, I don't care. Oh, I don't care. It will really hurt up to that point. But one day you'll wake up and you'll be like, I'm not bothered about this anymore. And yeah, time is a great healer. Sorry if that sounds a bit pithy, but that's all I got. I mean, you know, I've had my heart broken in the past a few times, so I know what it's like. But you know, give your mates a call, go out for a drink. Just don't go overboard. Charlie Nelson, just seeing the Odyssey trailer. Will you release the series on Prime or DVD? Charlie, thank you for the £5 super chat. No, I can't. I don't have the copyright for it. In fact, I got a copyright notice for putting up the intro sequence to the show, and I had to put in an application saying, "Look, I do have it in my BBC contract, and I'm allowed to put this online." and Google's like, "What the hell? We don't care. We literally don't care." But the BBC have contested it, so. Charlie, if I could release it on DVD, I would have released it yesterday. I would have released it 10 years ago, actually. But yes, it's not on at the moment. However, if you want to do me a favor, if you want to do me a solid, that's not going to cost you anything. Maybe if you want to give a super chat, but you're not feeling particularly flush at the moment. If you have Disney Plus, if you're a Disney Plus customer, Disney Plus bought National Geographic, so they technically own all of the National Geographic stuff. My show, right, the Odyssey, Lonely Planet's The Odyssey, or Graham's World, it was commissioned by National Geographic, so they paid 75% of the budget of the show. As a result, there's a good chance that if we ask Disney Plus, if enough people ask Disney Plus to put the show on their National Geographic bit of Disney in the UK, they might put it on because it's never been shown in the UK, and I don't think that any other channel have the exclusive rights to show it. They might and just be deciding not to show it. They wouldn't be able to do it in the US because the Travel Channel have the rights to show it there. But as far as I'm aware, that National Geographic is now owned by Disney, and so there's a good chance that we could possibly slip in there. So if you want to do me a solid, write to Disney Plus and ask them to put Lonely Planet's The Odyssey. Try and spell it right. I know it's a hard word to spell. I spell it wrong all the time. But Lonely Planet's The Odyssey on their channel. There's an Internet Movie Database page for it, so you could link it to that and say, I want to watch this. It's got Graham off the YouTubes in it. Thank you very much for the £5 super chat there, Charlie. Ernie says disruptive economics is basically so-called new industries and markets avoiding regulation that were imposed on established businesses that were imposed to control bad practices that did harm. Yeah, disruption of any given field, sector, I think it's a bit... I have a problem with that term. I have a problem with that because I understand the idea of coming up with new innovative ways of dealing with a problem. And I get that, but I don't think you should do it for being disruptive purposes. It's like, imagine you're in... This is probably a very bad analogy, but I'll go with it anyway. When you're in a class, the disruptive kids is actually stopping the other kids from learning. So there's a point where I feel like we should have more of a... You know me, I'm all 50 Shades of Grey, aren't I? Hey, whip. I'd have a holistic solution to any given problem. It's why I really like this idea of having an overhead cable on motorways so that lorries and buses and coaches can just hook up to it and charge as they drive. That would be brilliant. We've got electric lorries anyway, but imagine a bus getting to its destination. Without that, it would then have to sit there at the depot for a few hours to recharge, right? If it's charged up on the motorway because there's an overhead cable on the inside lane, bonza. Seriously, and don't forget, it's not on rails, so if there's a problem and you need to go around it, you still have batteries on the bus. You'll still have batteries on the lorry. You'll just keep them charged until you need to go into the other lane to maybe overtake someone, or once you get off the motorway to go through a town or something, then you use your batteries. I was just like, I'm kind of annoyed that this is such a simple idea that I didn't think of it. But as soon as I read that article, and the government's given 50p for a study to see if it's going to work, a feasibility study. Here's 50p for a feasibility study. They give £107 million to the mate for owning a pub and saying he probably get some PPE. Maybe. Who knows? It's all a bit of a wheeze. But when it comes to something that could actually revolutionise transport in the UK, especially logistics, they're like, oh no, we don't. They've only got 50p to spare. We're not made of money. There's no magic money tree, except when there is a magic money tree. But so and I don't see that as a disruptive technology, because you're using what you've already got, the bloody English motorway system. Don't get me started on that one, in which none of the motorways have been finished. None of them have been finished. Not a single motorway in this fucking country has been finished to how it was supposed to be when it was drawn up. Not a single one. All of them have been bodged together. All of them. This is a stretch of the M60 that's this wide. There's the M1 just slams to a halt at Brent Cross. It just literally hits the Northern Circular, and that's it. You're done. We're done for. The M62 here in Liverpool, it starts at Junction 4. None of it was finished. None of it was finished. So, I mean, yeah, but they're taking that old tech, the motorways, and then adding in the new... It's not even new tech. Bloody hell, we've had overhead cables powering trams for over 120 years. So it's like using old tech to do something green and new and efficient, which I think would be great. I also think that we're going to have to start thinking about how we deliver stuff to houses. We're still, when there's a knock on the door and the guy from DHL or Amazon or whatever they're called these days turns up, they're usually always in a van. And it's a petrol-driven van. When our parents were kids, they had... Well, when I was a kid, actually, we had electric milk floats. They were electric cars that just trundled around at 5 miles an hour, at 5 in the morning when no one was awake, and went door to door and dropped stuff off. Can we put those two things together? Can we have... Anyway. Chobai, you'll be shocked to see articulated trolley buses. Yeah, I mean, they had them in the 50s. They had them in the 50s in London, because they took out the tram lines, dickheads, and then they were like, well, we've still got all the cables, though. How do we... And they had a trolley bus, and it was a bus that had a connector piece at the top that can rise and go down. And they just connected up to the cable and trotted along and sparked everywhere. Pineapple Boy, there is better tech, 4 times better, like 1,000 miles range, aluminium air battery, drawback, recharge at factory, so it needs to be replaced at the station. Yeah, Pineapple Boy, I mean, I know that tech's there, but I'm saying that we've already got overhead cables. We've already got the cabling. We've already got the motorways. Just put them there. Just put them there. And then, whether you've got a lead battery, a lithium ion battery, or an aluminium ion battery, it doesn't matter. You're getting that charge. You're getting that DC charge into your batteries, so you're charging up as you go. How would you earth without rails? Trolley buses use 2 poles and cables, 1 each for polarity. Trains use rails to earth. Lee, I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but I assume they must have solved that problem in the 50s in London when they had trolley buses. So they had electric buses, so it must be ground somehow. Maybe they just have a cable trailing on the ground. I don't know. Solid state batteries are going to change everything. Yeah, but Ernie, as I just said, it's in the future still. Aluminium air batteries sound absolutely freaking amazing, and the idea that you could charge up your phone in 10 seconds, you could charge up your car in a minute, amazing. It would be quicker to charge your car than it would be to actually fill it with fuel. So yeah, bring it on, bring it. I'm really excited about that, but. Like I say, if you can get through the teething problems, whatever, we've already got electric buses, we've already got electric lorries. It's just putting this new battery tech together with the old tech of just having a bloody power cable running down the middle, and you just you put your rod up. What's it called? Conductor. You put your conductor up. And head along. Asperger's, I wonder what voltage the overhead cables on the motorway would use. 25 kV AC like mainline railways. I'm assuming it'll just be the same as what they use for the trams in places like Melbourne and Manchester. Manchester's got tram lines and that uses overhead cables. So I have a think video on iron batteries. Could be a cheap game changer. Well, yeah, and aluminium. We're not running out of aluminium. Lithium is, we're not running out of lithium, but there's only a few places in the world that have any sizable amounts of lithium, and they are Bolivia and Botswana, also maybe Britain, all the bees, down in the old tin mines in Cornwall. They reckon there might be a lot of lithium down there, but I tend to think, do we really want to go back to those days where people were like digging down mines? I don't think they do it that way. I think they flood the old mines, then they get all the water out and they get the lithium out the water or something. I think it's going to be a bit like fracking, but I'm not quite sure, so don't quote me on this. But yeah, aluminium. We have millions of tons of aluminium cans that can all be recycled again and again and again, unlike plastic, which generally has a recyclable shelf life. Lots of missing motorway numbers. There's no M7, for example. Indeed. Is there no M7 isn't the M7 and M8 in Scotland? Oh no, it's the M74, isn't it? Yeah, you're right. And the M62, which goes from Hull to Liverpool, it should only be the M62 from Hull to where it joins the M60 in Manchester. The bit from the M60 to Liverpool should, technically speaking, be the M52. The M52, because that's what the original number was, because we're in the 5 sector of the country. So that's why all the motorways around Liverpool, like the M58 and the M57, start with 5. Because we're in the 5. Manchester's in the 6 area. And then, yeah, the 7 and 8 was up in Scotland. It was like a clock. It was like the portions of a clock. So imagine a clock with 6 numbers on it. And, straight up out of London, 1. To the right, to clockwise from that. I'm probably that way for you. Was 2, and then 3 down to Brighton, I think, maybe. And then 4 over to Bristol, and then 5 kind of to Birmingham, and then 6 is up to Manchester. Afghanistan has 30% of easily accessible lithium, I think. Oh, well, it sounds like a good idea to leave then, now, and let the Taliban take over. In Finland, Helsinki trams run on 600 volts DC. In Tampa, it is 750 volts for some reason. Trams use 600 volts. Tim Ballon saying 750 volts. Yeah, I mean, there you go. The aluminium production costs a lot of electricity, for which you better have something more powerful, like says Umke. Like what? Ecstasy? Sorry. In Finland, Helsinki trams. I've read that one. Different country, but the M7 is from Dublin to Limerick. There you go. Panel boys, so we can buy our heroin and our lithium from the Taliban's. Yeah, hooray! Carlisle to Edinburgh. Yeah, I think that's the M7, isn't it? Isn't it? I don't know. It's not the M74. John Barleycorn says there used to be an M10 between the M1 and St Albans, but now it's been converted to an A road. Yeah, motorways fell out of favour, didn't they? So there's the Knowsley Expressway, which joins the end of the M58, which is the M57, which is like the orbital motorway, sort of orbital motorway. That was never finished at either end of Liverpool, so it's sort of like a little spur between the M62 and the M58. And it stops when it hits the M62, but it actually continues on, and it's the Knowsley Expressway, and it's 70 miles an hour. It's dual carriageway, and it's just exactly like a motorway, but it's not a motorway. Weirdly, because they fell out of favour. My favourite motorway is the M69. Nice. Jimbo, I think, is it the M666? Oh, it's the A666. Goes to Bolton. This is the road to hell. No offence. Jimbo Robob says, better that you moved on now than after a child gets caught in a separation. Although you are like that, see it like that now. Sorry, not a great space for help, but hang on in there. Good luck. Yeah, so I'm really sorry to hear about this, Jay. And bloody hell, if you're in Liverpool, you fancy a drink, give me a shout. But yeah, it hits hard. It really hits hard, and yeah, you just got to go. What I do, I'm not a great expert at this, and I'm not someone who can really give sort of relationship advice by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just taken one day at a time, and one day, looking forward to that one day where you won't care, that one day you just be like, oh, I haven't thought about that person today at all. Great. Oh no, I just thought about them because I was thinking that I hadn't thought about them. Curses. But you know what I mean. And that's a great day. That's a day when you feel like a huge weight is lifted from your shoulders. That day when you're just like, okay, I've moved on. So just keep looking forward to that day. It will come. Tim Ballum says, aluminium are not rechargeable, never have been in their many years of use. I'm actually in Liverpool, lol. Jay, great. All right, we'll come out for a drink with us tonight on Lark Lane. Chubai says, I think there is now a bus that charges itself up at bus stops by overheads running in Australia somewhere. Yeah, that makes sense. But I mean, charging as you drive along the motorway, it means that your vehicle is always ready to go. You don't have to worry about running out of power. You don't have to plug it in for ages for it to recharge. What about favourite service station to go full partridge? Favourite service station? There's two that I like. There's one up near Kendal. I'm trying to remember the name of it. We when we're going back to Durham, I often take the A66 route. So I go up the M6 and then take a right down the A66, well, towards the A66 through Barnard Castle. Yeah, I've forgotten what the name of the bloody services is now. And I've forgotten the name of the other one, which is when you're on the way to Glastonbury and there's a services and it's really nice. It's got like a little farm shop in and all that kind of shit. It's very middle class. Yeah, they're my favourite services. Most of the other ones are my least favourite services because I freaking hate services. They're horrible. They're a greasy car park and everything is like 20 times more expensive than it needs to be. European flags around Westminster to piss off the Tories. Haha, good stuff. T-Bay, yes. T-Bay services, that's the one. Really good services. Just doing a bit of accidental partridge here, but maybe for, yeah, T-Bay, really good. And they do really good Scotch eggs, just to add some more to my partridgeness of this afternoon. My partridge Odyssey. Mark says, electric short-haul flying needs to be a thing. Yeah, I don't know how you do it, though. How do you do it? I don't know the tech. The only things I've seen, as far as I know, when it comes to planes has been these like solar power microlight things that are dead light, and they have solar panels all over the wings, and they can go for hours and hours and hours. But like if you want to get a jumbo jet, you know, it's gonna be a lot more difficult. Houghton 125, yes, T-Bay is the king of service stations. Well, there's again a lot of love for T-Bay here. Asperger's Europe, the A50 between M6 Junction 5 Stoke-on-Trent and the M1 Junction 24 should have been the M64. Okay, guys, I'm gonna let you into a guilty pleasure of mine. There's a website called Pathetic Motorways, and it tells the story of every freaking motorway in the country. It's the nerdiest thing on the internet. It is beyond the nerdiest thing on the internet, but yeah, it's one of my favorite websites. Honestly, Pathetic Motorways. Please check it out. Oh, the heating just came on. Ernie Burns says, Pear Tree Roundabout, Oxford. My dad used to run it in the 70s. It had a travel lodge with swimming pools. Travel lodge with swimming pools. Mark Wotton says they are meant to be looking into it. Would be pretty limited range, though, a London to Paris. Then again, a lot of the problems caused by, as far as I'm aware, a lot of the problems caused by planes is the takeoff and landing, isn't it? I mean, obviously, look, you got the global problem, but when you look at the number of kids with asthma in, say, Hounslow, in the flight path of Heathrow Airport, it's like twice the national average. Actually, I don't want to give a stat on that. I don't know what the stat is. I just believe that it is higher around airports. People have more respiratory problems because of the particulates. I don't know if that's a word. In the aircraft fuel that is dropping on these houses when the birds fly over and the briny when the kite flies over and we all go home and sleep with our hideously ugly wives. No, not the RAF. When the planes fly over, they drop these particles and I'll spit out these particles, and they're really, really bad for people's health. And that if you're getting rid of a lot of those flights, to be honest with you, I would like to see in the interim this decade, before we get to a point where we master the art of electric flying, I would like to see short haul flights for business really discouraged, really, really discouraged, because we've got Zoom now, you know, we've got Google Meet, we've got Facebook Teams. We don't really need to fly over to Paris for a bloody meeting, a face-to-face meeting. I mean, one of the things I read about sort of travel when I was sort of doing my research for the Odyssey expedition, and honestly, this might be way out of date by now, but I believe that a lot of the air travel is caused by commuter travel, and there's like a small number of people who take the most amount of flights. Like it's something like only 1% takes 70% of flights. I don't know what the actual stats are. Please don't at me about what the actual stats are, but it was one of those stats where you look at it and go, oh my God. And it was business travelers who fly somewhere like literally every day of the year. They get on a plane, they fly somewhere. I would like to see that discouraged, and at the same time give subsidies or whatever towards people to book flights, not to the airlines directly, but indirectly, I guess. But I do think there should be a government system where you are given, you know, if you are earning under a certain amount, then you're given a government voucher to just go on holiday. Just get out the country for a few weeks, you know what I mean, with the kids. It's so expensive these days, especially during the holidays. It's difficult if you're not on Brewster's to do that kind of thing. I'd have to visit that site in incognito mode, says Houghton 125. David says, Graham, you need a marvellous light on your set. Well, I've got this light here, which I'm gonna make my arm disappear out the side here. But where's the thing? I can actually change the colour of this. So if I want it to be sort of white, it's kind of more of a studio like that, isn't it? But I'm going to make it yellow again because that's a bit warmer. Although I do look a bit jaundiced, but whatever. Graham, will you try and dance Lambada with Marcus on the island? No. You know I'm a bad dancer. That's why. Yes, I know you're a bad. You know I'm a bad dancer. Yeah. Panel boy, I've worked from home since March 2020. Not travelled once, office or further since then. Thanks COVID. I don't like the London Tube. I don't much like it. Yeah. I mean, as a tourist to London, and I only lived in London for a few months when I did live there. The tube was fun for like logistics and trying to get from here to there and sussing out the nearest tube line and working out how to get there. Fun. Doing that journey every freaking day, the same journey over and over again, and all the same. No way. Absolutely no way. It will kill me. I hate it. I need that. I need the variety. I need to be going different places. I don't travel because I enjoy the actual thing of sitting there waiting to arrive at a destination. I travel because I find it exciting to be going somewhere new, to be going somewhere different, and sussing it out, and the satisfaction of sussing it out. It's like a video game. You know, why play video games? Well, because it's satisfying, especially when you suss out the problem and you complete the goal and you go, yes, I did that. You know, no one else gives a shit, but for you, for me, yeah, that's great. So yeah, the commute, even worse if you're in a car every day and you've got to sit in a traffic jam because the people who run your office won't change the times. I mean, it's a ridiculous thing. Why do we still work 9 to 5? Why? It makes no sense at all. Why do we still work 9 to 5? Why do schools start at 9 o'clock? Secondary schools. It's a fact that teenagers, their circadian rhythms go all over the shop while they're going through puberty. We know this. This has been scientifically proven years ago, back in the 50s. So when a teenager can't get out of bed in the morning, they're not necessarily being a lazy little shit. They might literally not be able to get out of bed because of just what's happening with their body at that time in their life. And it seems like a cruel and unusual punishment to make them get into school at 9 o'clock. So where I grew up in Liverpool, I had to take 2 buses to get to school. So I had to be out the house by 7:30 every morning for 7 years in school, or I just didn't get to school on time. Because if one bus was late, you needed to be able to get the later bus to school. And that was always a bit dicey whether it would actually get in on time. But you know, why not just make it 10 o'clock? Why not just make it 10 o'clock? But also, why not just have buses that are paid for by the taxpayer go around picking up the kids, electric buses, they go around picking up all the kids to the school and take them to the school. Then we don't have the bloody school run clogging up all the roads, and kids don't have to get buses, so that makes buses nicer for the rest of us, because I don't know about you, but when I get on the bus and it's full of screaming, gobbing school children, I'm like, yeah, a bit uncomfortable. I have to stand now because all the seats are taken and everyone's screaming at each other at the top of their freaking lungs. It's not, you know, it's not a nice way to go to work, is it? It's not a pleasant journey in with a bunch of screaming kids. It's not like if you had a job, you'd be like, hey, before I come in every day, because I just sit in a room for like 15 minutes with a bunch of gobshites and they can just scream out the window. Yeah, great. Yeah, we can do that. Be a bit of a weird thing to request, wouldn't it? So yeah, school buses obviously would be good, and subsidies on travel for people traveling, not necessarily, you know, that would go to EasyJet, that would go to whoever is operating the planes indirectly. But if people, you know, want to get away, I think it's really, really unfair that we have a system that is so regressive. We have all these regressive taxes. If you don't have much money, everything costs more. You don't have much money to go to get your teeth looked at by the dentist because it's 20 quid. You don't have that 20 quid, root canal surgery, 300 quid. You know, actually it's not that much. It's 150, I think. Well, you need a crown. I think that is about 300 quid all in. You need, it's the Terry Pratchett story, isn't it? Wasn't it, about the boots? The poor man gets the boot. He has to get new boots every year because they wear down. Whereas the rich man, he buys a £50 pair of boots and they last for 10 years. Meanwhile, the guy who can only get the crappy boots, he ends up spending twice as much money and has holes in his shoes most of the time. Graham, you sound old now. Thank you, Chubby. Them were the days, eh? Them were the days. Imagine getting the 27 from Shield Road to Smithdown for 5 years to get an education. I was the 61, and then I changed to Old Swan for either the 68 or the 92, which I think is the 62 now, but it used to be the 92. But the 92 was nice to get on because its terminus was Penny Lane, so we used to get the bus to Penny Lane to school every day. I did Waterloo Bank and Waterloo Canary Wharf for around 10 years. One of the reasons I stopped working for ad agencies and financial institutions. TfL is awesome. I can take awesome in small doses. Yeah, it gives you a real appreciation of TfL if you're coming from outside. You have to put up with that shit every day. Oh my God. Carl says, because if you don't have set times, 9 to 5, managers get paranoid. Yeah. But it's like, you've all got to get in at this time when the roads are at the busiest. It just makes no sense. And some people work better in the evenings. And obviously with childcare and things, it's better to have flexible hours for the people working for you. There aren't that many jobs really that just desperately require you've got to be there at 9, you've got to leave at 5. Maybe if you're fronting a shop or you're working at a bar or something like that, that's understandable. But if you're doing an office job, surely that paperwork that you're doing, those files that you need to file or whatever you need to do, can really be done. If they can be done at 4 p.m, they can be done at 6 p.m, realistically. And don't forget, time is relative. Lunchtime doubly so. If it's 6 o'clock here, it might be 4 o'clock somewhere else in the world. It will be 4 o'clock somewhere else in the world. It's all, it's all relative. It's a good question that though, in Gremlins 2, where they say, what if you feed them after midnight, but you're on a plane and you go through different time zones? And they're like, don't think too much about it. Yuli Kaluda says helium might be a problem, but clearly airships work. Canada's rolling out their flying whales soon. I love airships. I'd love to go on an airship. I really, really would. But apparently we're running out of helium. We're running out of helium. We just don't have enough of it anymore. Helium's a really interesting gas because although it is basically what the sun is making. So the sun at the moment is a big furnace that is smashing together atoms of hydrogen and creating helium. And scientists suss this out. That's why it's called helium, Helios, the sun god. And they put a place for it on the periodic table before they'd actually isolated it as a gas, which I find remarkable. They said there's a gap here, and that's for helium. We've never seen it. We don't know what it's like. We don't know how to isolate it. We don't know how to make it, but we know it exists. We know that there's a thing called helium, and it exists. We probably know some of the properties. It's just fascinating. One of the fascinating things about astronomy, we were talking about astronomy the other day, is that you can point a telescope at a star, a distant star, thousands of light years away, and from the spectral image, right, you'll get your spectrum from the visible light, and in that there'll be little black bars, and those black bars tell you, if you're very cleverer than me, tell you the composition of that star. That's insane, isn't it? Like, just being able to look at something that far away and go, well, that's made of 60% helium, 40% hydrogen. Wow. Everyone, stop making Graham feel old. He's not old. He's just overworked. It's not the years. It's the mileage. Kevin Hegarty says, starting at 9 is kind of stupid if you're working for an EMEA and having to deal with different time zones. But hey, I don't pay the wages. Indeed it is. Tim says, if people want to do anything about the particulate, that's the word I'm trying to get right, particulate pollution, visit sensor.community and build your own sensor and get it online. That sounds like a good idea. I do like the idea of flying whales because airships can take so much more luggage. Yeah, well, luggage. No, cargo and luggage, obviously, but cargo than the plane. Flying cargo with planes is nuts. It's absolutely nuts. The amount of fuel you have to use compared with the amount of weight that you're carrying. Put it on a boat, it takes a lot longer, but it's a fraction. It's a mere fraction to take something on a boat rather than a plane in terms of fuel. Has Michael Gove ingested all the helium in the country, so now he can go on sounding plausible? I don't know. What do you do on Ramadan? And what do you do on Ramadan? And are you well up beyond the Arctic Circle? What do you mean if you're beyond the Arctic Circle? Yeah, because Ramadan, you can't eat during daylight hours, and when the sun goes down, then you can eat. But if you're in the Arctic Circle for 6 months, well, the closer you are to the North Pole, for 6 months you get sunshine, well, daylight, and then for 6 months you get darkness. So if Ramadan happens to fall on one of the summer months, you're in a bit of trouble. Whereas if it falls on the winter months, then you should be alright. But I've actually asked someone this question before, and the answer that I got was that they would eat at the normal time for the country that they were from, I think. So when the people from their country were breaking the fast, they would too, no matter the fact that they were in the Arctic or Antarctica. I had a friend of mine who's Jewish who I was asking about Yom Kippur, because on Yom Kippur you don't eat, you don't drink either. And I said, well, what if you're ill? What if you're pregnant? Me being a dickhead. I'm like, what about all these exceptions? And she said to me, Graham, these are rules to live by, not to die by. If you're pregnant, of course you can eat. It's just if you're capable of doing it, you do it. So I looked a bit of a tit at that point, but that's wouldn't be the first time. How would Boris Johnson's voice sound with helium? There's that guy in Parliament. I forgot his name. Jeffrey something. He's got this big booming voice along the same lines as Brian Blessed. And I took a video of his, a video from Parliament of him. And it was where he said, "This Parliament is a disgrace." And I changed the audio pitch to a little setting that's on Google. That's on Amazon. Get there in the end. That's on Adobe Premiere, called Extreme Gerbil or something setting. And it was absolutely hilarious because it just sounded like he had the voice of Alvin and the Chipmunks going, "This Parliament is a disgrace," which just made me laugh. It made me laugh. Yuli Kluder, how much lower density can helium achieve if ships absorb heat from the sun? That would maximize lift. New materials can make airships leak-proof. Indeed. Yoni says we correspond to the fast and the closest Islamic country, or we can fast with Mecca. There you go. Ernie Burns says, how? Jeffrey Howe. Yes, thank you. I was wondering, why are you saying how? Jeffrey Howe. Parliament is a disgrace. Yeah, he's a very silly man. John Barleycorn, another interesting question is, which direction would the Muslim pray when they go into space? Oh, that'd be difficult, wouldn't it? There is an island in the Pacific Ocean that's actually on the diametric opposite of the planet to Mecca. So when a Muslim prays on that island, they can technically point any way they want. But one of my favourite experiences of the Odyssey expedition was after I kind of finished and I'd been to South Sudan, and I made my way back down through South Sudan. I couldn't get into Sudan because obviously the border is still problematic, still is today. And I went through Uganda and I went to Ethiopia, spent a few weeks in Ethiopia trying to get a visa for Sudan, which wasn't easy, but I got one in the end. And when I was in Ethiopia, I love Ethiopia. Now all I think of is like the food, the amazing food. I know they're having problems, huge issues at the moment with the Tigray province and the government's reaction to the Tigray conflict, which has been absolutely abhorrent. And again, like we were talking about Cameroon the other day, there's been atrocities committed on both sides. No one's coming out of this looking particularly good. But really, really loved Ethiopia. And then I travelled through Sudan. I went to see the Meroe pyramids, which is amazing because it was the most Indiana Jonesy or Tomb Raider-y thing I'd ever done because I had the whole run of the place to myself. Because who goes to Sudan to look at the pyramids? Like, imagine just having the pyramids literally to yourself. Well, I actually did that as well because me and three guys called Mohammed and my friend Kendra, we when I got to Cairo, we all met up and we climbed over the fence into the pyramid complex to see the pyramids at night, and there was no one there. There was literally no one there guarding the last standing wonder of the ancient world. Nobody, not even a single watch person with a whistle. Or if there was, they were asleep, because every single dog, there's lots of stray dogs running around, pyramid dogs, barking like crazy. Woof, there's someone here. Woof, there's someone here. And we're like, oh my God. We're like, this is so easy. We were expecting someone to come over and say, oh, you piss off. But they didn't. So we're like, okay, should we climb the pyramid then? And I've gotten shit off people for climbing the Great Pyramid. And this is the middle of the night. And no, I didn't have sex at the top. And no, I didn't bloody get arrested or anything like that, like some people have done. We climbed up it. And you know what? It's 6,000 years old, guys. You know, seriously, it has tourists stand on it all the time, lower down. It's not like people standing on it. It's rock, it's stone. It's going to last. You're not going to wear it away unless millions of people do it every single day, which they can't. I first went to Egypt in 1999, and until quite recently, up to that point, you were allowed to climb the Great Pyramid. The only reason that they stopped people from climbing to the top was simply because of insurance, because these dickhead tourists were going up there and slipping and falling, smashing their head on the rock. It was a problem for the emergency services getting there, and obviously then they wanted to sue the makers of this dangerous thing being put in the desert. So as far as I'm concerned, it's not as though you could compare it with Ayers Rock or Uluru, where it's actually sacred to the Aboriginal people who live there. And so I understand why there's a reason why you shouldn't climb that. I understand the highest unclimbed mountain in the world is in Bhutan, and it's a holy mountain, so you shouldn't climb that. But the pyramids, there's no ancient Egyptians still praying to Ra anymore. So yeah, we climbed up, and then when we got to the top, we had the call to prayer, and I could hear it coming up from Cairo, from the streets below, and the three Mohammeds got down to pray. And I had my watch at the time, had a compass on it. I'm such a nerd. Had a little compass on it, so I found out the way, pointing to Mecca. I was like, which way is it? And they're like, oh, you've got to point it like from there. I think it would have been southeast, wouldn't it? Yeah. And so they put I don't think they had prayer mats, but I think they put the coats down on the ground or something, and they prayed. And it was like, I'm not a spiritual person, not religious in any way, shape or form. It was nice that they had that moment to sort of communicate with that moment of, I was going to say communicate with the deity, but I don't think it works like that. But, you know, that bit of culture where they took something, they were Egyptians, and they took something, you know, super fucking old, like the pyramids, and used it as a place to worship their god, which I thought was quite cool in a weird sort of old-timely stroke, you know. It's one of the reasons why I've become, my travels around the world made me a lot less arsey about religion. I used to be really, really arsey. You know, the way I'm arsey about Brexit, I used to be that way about religion, and I've kind of mellowed a little bit on whereas religion's concerned, as long as they're not, you know, killing someone or telling someone they can't have an abortion or something abhorrent like that. I'm very much sort of live and let live. I don't think I'm ever going to forgive Brexit, though. That's another matter. Handstand prayer, test your resolve. Gordon Brown was softly spoken when he declared the woman's a bigot. Yes, he was completely right, though. Have you been watching John Oliver's Last Week Tonight? That's where I found that out. I watched I think I missed one the other week, but I watched one where he was talking about property in America, and it was unbelievable. So basically, I didn't know any of this. In the Great Depression, they had the New Deal, and part of the New Deal was loans from the government, low-cost loans from the government that allowed you to purchase your own house. So it allowed people, lower middle-class people and upper working-class people, I guess, to buy their own homes, so long as they were white. And it was outrageous. They did these housing developments where you could buy a cheap house if you're a first-time buyer and you were earning it under a certain amount. But if a black person, a black family moved in, then the price of the whole place would come down. Sorry, not the price. They couldn't get the government grant. That's right. So there was a government grant available, but you couldn't have it if your neighbour was black. And then in the 1960s, they brought in the Civil Rights Act, which was supposed to sort this problem out, but it didn't really do anything. It was more like a sticking plaster fix. And to this day, black people are still, disenfranchised and discriminated against because of this system that's built up. And it was best put by a woman who was interviewed by the BBC last year in the height of the Black Lives Matter protests in America. And she put it in just the best analogy that I've ever heard for the black experience in America. She said, imagine you're playing Monopoly and you're given the dice, but everyone else has been playing for 100 years. All the properties are bought and they've all got hotels on them, something like this. And they give you the dice and say, go on. Off you go. You're free. Go on, see how you do. But all the squares are taken. What am I supposed to do? Hustle, man, hustle! And yeah, Monopoly. A really, really good example of just how difficult it is if you're not born into the right race, the right religion, the right socioeconomic background. You can find yourself incredibly talented, but that talent will never be realised to its full potential. And imagine that the amount of potential that's out there that is lost because of the way society just functions. And they were talking on the John Oliver show about reparations. And I say, yeah, absolutely. We should be paying reparations. Britain should be paying reparations to the countries that it invaded and stole things from and destroyed things. Britain took the Parthenon marbles, which are known as the Elgin marbles over here for some bonkers reason. They took them from the Parthenon, the most important existing building in the whole of Greece, and we took the freezers off it. Why did we do that? And we got them in the British Museum. And also in the British Museum, the Rosetta Stone, the most important artifact for unlocking the code of the pharaohs, so we knew what the pharaohs were doing, what they were talking about. And it's not in Alexandria. It's not in Rosetta where it was found. It's not in Cairo. It's in the British Museum. We stole it. I said, no, we're not giving it back. Go to the Cairo Museum. They've got a replica. Why can't we have the replica and they have the original thing? The Benin bronzes, which are not from Benin or Benin. They're actually from Nigeria. We stole them. They were proof that people in Africa were just as technologically advanced and just as good with arts and technology as we were at the same time, back in the Middle Ages. It's amazing depictions of people. Even the first Dutch people and the first Portuguese people are depicted in these Benin bronzes. Where are they? Are they in Benin City in Nigeria? Are they in Lagos? Are they in Abuja? No, they're not. They're in the British Museum. So can we give those back? And can we start thinking about paying reparations to the countries that we just fucked over? India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. 1 million people died in partition. 1 million freaking people. What about the potato famine in Ireland? Has Ireland's population recovered from that famine of the 1840s? Nope. Ireland's population to this day is still substantially smaller than it was before the potato famine. That's how many people died and how many people left. Pineapple Boy says reparations only come due if you lose a war. Yeah, maybe that's the case at the moment, but that's not the way it should be. I think that we need to really look at this. And again, going back to the point I was making way earlier in the show, and I've obviously gone over time, so we'll have to wrap it up soon. Thank you very much for the £2 super chat there, Pineapple Boy. Yeah, the idea that we give people money to help them out also helps us out. It's like game theory, this, isn't it? You give people money, they spend it. That grows the economy. And the economy growing is good for everybody who's got an interest in that economy. Anyway, so if Graham is a leftist lunatic, then I'm absolutely celery head leftist, far left of him. He's far more centre-right. I've been accused of being an extreme centralist. I don't know where this Jessica came in on the conversation, but I was just explaining how if I was in charge in Afghanistan, I would have told the Taliban that I was leaving, waited for them to crawl out from under their rocks, and then fucking killed them all. So I don't think I'm particularly, woolly on these matters. It's just, I think it's a convenient sort of label to give people if you don't want to bother thinking, or thinking hurts your head, or maybe, as some people are, unfortunately, people feel very, very intimidated when they have to deal with someone or speak to someone or interact with someone who is evidently more, I don't say intelligent, but maybe more informed than they are. Which is something when, I start banging on about these obscure countries around the world. People going, Graham, stop it. You make me feel like an idiot. And I'm like, well, no, you probably know more about some other sector of life than I do. But it just happens to be my thing that I love travel. I've been to every country in the world, and I'm fascinated by the history and the geopolitics and all that kind of stuff of every country in the world. So on that note, if you'd like to join me tonight for Hughes the World Canada, it's at the slightly unusual time of 8 p.m. tonight, but I will be talking to an old family friend of ours who's lived in Vancouver for 40 years, and she's absolutely freaking hilarious. She's a Scouser. She's lived in Vancouver for 40 years, and we'll be having a chat at the end of the show tonight, so please tune in, 8 o'clock. It's live, it's interactive. If you want to tell us stuff about Canada, if you want to make some jokes, if you want to make fun of Canadians, that's cool. That's cool. One of my favourite jokes that I made up about Canadians is people say to me, Graham, where's the most dangerous roads in the world? And I say, well, people think that it might be in Nigeria, and people think it might be in Bangladesh, but actually the most dangerous roads in the world are in Canada. And they say to me, is that because of all the ice? Thinking of, ice road truckers. I say, no, not because of all the ice. It's because there's only one road and all the musicians are in the middle of it. Anyway, Fordo, thank you very much for my 100 Swedish krona. Thank you for my milk money. I really appreciate that. I'm going to head over to the Discord server now, since we've got a couple of trolls. I won't get the link. If you've been there before, Christ, they dropped me drink there. If you've been there before, you know what it is. It's like a bulletin board, but it's got like Zoom-like capabilities, so we can continue the conversation. And if you want to have a chat with me about Ginger Island and ask me some questions, we were talking about like insects and creepy crawlies and sick sloths and frogs and all kinds of things yesterday. If you've got some questions, please come along to the Discord server in a few moments' time, and I'll be there to hopefully answer some questions for you. So until 8 o'clock tonight, I'll say thanks for joining me, and thanks to all my patrons, thanks to all the people who give super chats. You're all absolutely awesome, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you either tonight, Discord, tonight at 8, or tomorrow at 1 o'clock for the next edition, and the last edition of the week of HughesRound. So hopefully, one way or another, I'll see you then. Until then, hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.